Hello everyone, this is a very special moment we are sharing with you. Alex Collier and myself, we are both contactees since a young age, and the information we have been given by our extraterrestrial contact are crossing and exactly saying the same messages. So we are getting together tonight to put together our experience and share our memories and whatever this conversation leads to. So Alex Collier, good evening, how are you?
Hi, Elena. Thank you for having me. I know this has been in the works for a little while. I'm glad we're finally doing it here on Mother's Day.
Yes.
And you know, it hopefully it will give some people perspective, because you know, in the media, even though they're beginning to disclose the militaries, there is behind it this fear mechanism that is kicking in, and once again, you know, it's just are there dangers, are there threats? Well, yeah, there's some, you know, but at the same time, if there's dark, there has to be the light, and everybody has to remember that, and that, you know, the universe abhors a vacuum. Therefore, where there's dark, there's going to be light. And it's all about balance. And we are not going to be hung out to dry. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, we decided to do this, so that, you know, we could share notes and things that we've witnessed from our star families. Literally, that's what they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, most people on this planet have star family. They come from star family. Their souls were not born and hatched on this planet. They've come from another time and another place. And I understand that some people just won't get that yet, because it's not time for them to have that piece fall into place for them. But there's a lot of others who have already done the work, who know this, that they've come from another time, another place, or they're drawn to a specific place in the night sky because
Yes.
they know. And you know, that's kind of, I think, what this is about. It's important because it's, you know, for me, this is meant to be empowering. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in this process, but, you know, there was no manual to this. And you know, after some of my big blunders, and I made it into the Andromedan Hall of Shame, you know, there was no point looking back and worrying about anything after that, you know. You know, I mean, I threw up on one of their ships. You know, I was wearing my environmental energy body, and I tooted, and it was bouncing around, and there was no way to hide it. You know, it's all uphill from there.
I know, it's the little details, the little stories, you know.
Exactly.
Well, you know, I've been, I don't like to say the name abducted, invited, it's the better word, physically in my 3D body, but as well with my light body that was redensified. And that's how we are doing now, because it's safer, redensifying my light body into a physical body. And I mean the little details, you know, things that you don't have to think about. But as a woman, for instance, when I redensify, I have no more makeup. Sometimes I used to wear synthetic nails, you know, no more, raw, and you know, and that's amazing. Oh my God, that, okay. Even if I had put color on my hair, the hair were natural color, you know, it little details that you know, when you tell people, they go, oh, of course, you know. And all well, we're going to share some little anecdotes, but well, did you always know, since as far as you can remember in this incarnation, that you were not from here, or that you were destined to something special, such as contacts? Or it came at a certain point suddenly?
No, I don't think I knew. I knew. I knew after the first contact. That's Merlin. I knew after the first contact in Michigan, and you know, after I hey, give it a rest. No, I don't think I always knew. I'm certainly not as a kid. There was, you know, a lot of things going on, but you know, after when I first met Visayas and Mornay again, or for the first time in this lifetime, I knew after that, because you know, when the monitors came out of the wall like magically, and I began seeing scenes of like movies, but you know, they weren't movies, they were historical documents, for lack of a better word. And as I was looking at each one, I was having an emotional response. And I'm not like talking like, you know, like watching a film or a horror movie. It wasn't anything like that. It was something really deep from within me. And it almost came down like this into the top of my head, down to my feet, and then came out the heart. And I knew, I was just like, oh my God. And I remember being so excited to tell my mother. I'm like, Mom, bad idea.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bad idea. But, you know, after that, I spent a lot of time when I wasn't with them, dreaming about being with them, wanting to be with them. I'm like, okay. You know, and of course, you know, when you're young, you think you know everything. Yeah, but it didn't even matter that I did or I didn't. It was like I wanted to be there. I didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
So, you know, that whole thing was a process and an experience of, yes, when I was with them, there was a lot of sharing. There was a lot of knowledge. Most of it I didn't even understand until I was much later, till I had matured.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was relationship building. Me getting to know them, developing trust, them exactly the same way, developing trust, getting to know me. And at the same time, they already knew me, but introducing or getting me to remember that I wasn't just this little boy in a body, that I was this soul that existed in other places at the same time. Now, of course, that's a very difficult concept to grasp, even as a kid or even as an adult. But they kept showing me things. They kept introducing me to things. And this was more Mornay. He learned to actually use his vocal cords. And we began to dialogue out loud in English, not always telepathic, although for quite a while, he was telepathic and at the same time was speaking. The telepathy would come first and then he would speak. And I would be so focused on the telepathy, I wouldn't hear what he said when he was speaking. And they weren't always the same thing, okay? Because they think faster than the speed of light. So I'm like, okay, what did he say? And meanwhile, he's talking to me and I'm like, what? You know, didn't get it at all. So he had to repeat himself. And there were a couple times he was actually frustrated like about that. So they're not that different than our parents, you know, because, you know, they would say things to us and then you'd have to put a finger in one ear and hopefully it goes in and it bounces around and then you get it. So there was that process. And then of course there was the exploring, wanting to know about the ship, the technology, where they were from, about the planets, about history, about their history, and what it is that they do. How do they, you know, we have all of these entertainments or distractions. They would call them distractions. You know, what is it that they do? And then, you know, we got onto something where we really hit on, and it wasn't just so much myself and Mornay, but his crew, and then the people on their mothership that the ship was attached to, and that was music.
Yes.
And we've had a lot of fun with that. A lot of fun. They don't want to listen to any music that has lyrics. They only want instruments. And I was puzzled because, you know, the first thing I started them off with was some pop, a little bit of rock and roll. The rock and roll didn't go over well at all. You know, they're just like, you know, to them it was just noise. You know, where to us it's not. It's great. But again, you know, we have, our cultures are so different, and yet there are a lot of bridges that connect us.
Yeah.
But where we really connected was contemporary jazz, or what they call smooth jazz.
Oh.
And I thought, well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That was really, really interesting. And when I was little, before there was going to be a contract, they would play a song that I chose, and I would hear it in my head, and then I knew they were coming. So that was my cue to wait for instructions, to either walk to a specific place or to get in the car when I was old enough to drive and take off and go to a specific place. And, you know, that song was solid for years. And then one day, Mornay said, you know, that's a terrible song. It's just not a good song. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a great song. He goes, no, it's not. So I'm like, okay, just because you don't like it. But they really like jazz, and it took a while for them to formulate exactly what it was. But to them, it's all resonance.
Yeah.
And to hear a musician play their instruments, what they are able to read from the actual playing of the music is the energy, the passion, and the depth of the soul in the way that they construct the song. In other words, the song is an expression of their own internal emotion and passion. And that's what they were interested in. That's what they wanted to hear, because one of the things that makes us as Terrans stand out is our depth of emotion. Yeah. And, you know, and that's something we take for granted here, you know, because, you know, we can go 100 miles an hour in a second, and they can't do that. That they don't have that depth. And that's something that they're incredibly intrigued about. And they see that, they feel that through music without lyrics. Their feeling is, hey, if they're singing, it's a distraction. That's not what we want to hear. You know, we want to hear the soul, you know, playing the music, the intensity, the commitment to the sound, because the music is the song. It's not the lyric, it's the music, in their opinion.
Yes.
So that was interesting, and a lot of things, which I will shut up here in a minute, a lot of things have come out of that as far as interaction. And when I was on their starship, the large starship, and I was being with the kids and we started to play some of the music, that was really a lot of fun.
Yeah,
That was a lot of fun. And you know, I'm not a very good dancer. I haven't had a lot of practice. And, you know, I would just do this and bop to the music. And then they would start to do that, you know.
Oh,
So they're
that's
terrible
cute.
dancers, but that's on me. That's not on them.
So if Destiny's dance badly, it's your fault then.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I have to, well, I'm already in the Hall of Shame, so it doesn't matter, right? It couldn't get any worse than that.
Oh my God, what you say?
my
Oh
God.
gosh, what you say about music, I can absolutely share it. So that's when you you can see differences between the culture of the peoples you are in contact with, and the Ahil Pleiadians, the race of Thorhan. Thorhan loves music and he communicates with me a lot through music. And when I wasn't yet ready to have really to be activated and communicate telepathically daily, because that would have freaked me out, he was sending me tunes, music that were carrying messages with lyrics. And the lyrics would be a message, but he would send me just few words in the song that would carry a message. And it was easier for him because I don't know why he was rebroadcasting the song he was receiving, or just picking from everything that we broadcast into space. Well, we are already on the Hall of Shame of the galaxy with all the crap we broadcast into space. Oh my gosh. That's absolutely.
Well, just, you know, I mean, the Jerry Springer show, that would have done it alone, you know.
I know. And when you think what we've sent on Voyager probe all at the time, anyway,
yes.
let us forget about that. So he would send me these messages, and sometimes he would wake me up in the morning with this little excerpt of a song, and I was, what's that? And I was trying to find the rest of the song then, and that would give me a message. But when the connection really was reactivated fully, with the implant really reactivated fully, then it was another type of music. And sometimes it would be music without lyrics, a lot of harp music and classical music, but very smooth, very like ethereal music.
Yeah.
And this would carry emotions. One day I was on the mothership where he is, and he was playing his harp. He has a harp in his quarters. And when I came in, the whole place was filled with a hologram. The music, the sound was creating holographic light, color, shapes that were moving, and that was going with the music. And he could even modify it, drive it with emotions. And that was absolutely beautiful. I just broke down in tears. It was, my soul was responding with it, to it. Yeah, that's this other level of music. It's sound, frequency. It's really the key for everything, isn't it?
You know, the A's music is, what they'll do is they will, as they explore and they catalog solar systems and stars and quasars, comets, asteroids, things of that nature, everything has a resonance.
Yeah.
And what they do is they catalog it, they catalog the sounds along with it. And what they do is they will overlay the different sounds of the universe, or fifth density, maybe fourth, maybe third now. They overlay it. And then what they do is they create music using the sounds of the universe. And I have not had the experience of seeing them create the holographs. I've seen historical events with the holographic technology, but I haven't had that particular experience that you've had. And it is, as you would say, etheric, ethereal. But I had a difficult time attaching to it. Some of it I did. Some of it, there were parts of some music they played that was theirs that I could attach to, but I couldn't resonate to it, and I don't exactly know why, but I was always polite about it, but I knew they knew because they're telepathic, you know. You can't get away with anything.
No.
So, you know, but they appreciated that. However, they really were able to respond to our music, certain types of our music here. And I think because it had so much emotion. And, you know, I had those 91 days with them on board their ship. And they had guests, and I'll never forget this. They had guests. They had rescued this group of people, and they were taking them somewhere, but they were stopped just outside our solar system for whatever else was going on, which I don't know. Anyway, M took the opportunity to come and see me. So I'm with them, and I had a very old iPod that had music on it. And so I gave it to them, you know, thinking it's not going to work because it's got a battery. I don't know how you're going to get the music off of it. You know, they already had it before I even gave it to them. But they appreciated the gesture, and I guess it went into some kind of a museum that they have, you know, Earthling Museum. Anyway, there was some music on it, and this group that they had never been exposed to anything Earth before. And there were a couple of songs on there from Foreplay, who was a jazz group.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I think it's Highway 101. And they were like, apparently they were mesmerized. And there was, they really enjoyed it. In other words, it created an emotional reaction inside of them.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that with telepathic races, everyone kind of gets it at the same time. So when there's an explosion or an explosion of emotion, it vibrates throughout the soul group. And that's what happened. There was another instance that I wasn't there, but he told me about it, where I had given them music over and over and over again. And there was one particular song called The Journey by Brian Culberson. And at 3 minutes and 11 seconds into the song, there is this huge crescendo that he does with the piano, and the music and everything builds, and he does this crescendo. Well, this created an emotional response with a group that was on board, and the entire starship felt the explosion of positive of joy, because they had never heard a resonance build like that and then crescendo. And they just exploded with emotion and awe. And apparently even the Andromedans on the ship felt this explosion of energy. And Mornay said after that, a lot of the youth, now I don't exactly know what that means, because, you know, they have their children, you know, their children could be 300, 400, 500 years old. They look like they're 15, you know, so I don't know exactly what that meant to you, but they were very interested in listening to the archives of music that they had been collecting from Earth, which would go from contemporary jazz, smooth jazz, classical music, and other types of indigenous music where there's a lot of drumming and the such. They're fascinated with the Aborigines type of music as well. They think that that's really, really interesting. And they say it's very, very ancient. It reminds them of other cultures that are very, very ancient in our galaxy that no longer exist, but the music is very, very similar to those old indigenous tribes of our early galaxy. So, you know, it's interesting to me that, you know, music is a bridge. Sound, tone, harmonics is a bridge that we can communicate with, and it's always been a good place where, you know, sometimes I would be having a really hard time in my life. Sometimes they would be dealing with stuff. You know, sometimes Visayas was just really grumpy because he was just like, you know, I want to be doing something else. And I'm not slamming him. He just, you know, he was 4,300 years old, and he was tired. You know, he was tired, and he was mentoring Mornay. This is not a job he volunteered for. I found that after he had passed away, you know, that he hadn't volunteered for this, but this group had said, you're going to mentor Mornay. So, and that's what happened. So he had his moments, but sound, music was always a way for us to engage and to begin some type of conversation or dialogue, you know, because then I would look at him and say, it sounds good, doesn't it? And he'd have to say yes, you know, especially since I learned telepathy when I was up there. It's not that I could hear all their thoughts, but I could feel them. I could feel them really well because we spent so much time together.
Yes.
What, 56 years. So yeah, it's been quite the experience. And, you know, the kids, you know, I say kids, they're 150 years old, some of them. You know, they look like they're 12.
It's difficult to tell the age. Yeah.
Yeah. They were wonderful. They were, you know, outside of the fact that they're already brilliant and geniuses, in a lot of ways, they still had that innocence of children wanting to, having that curiosity, wanting to engage, wanting to know for themselves. I can remember a couple times where they would come and they would slowly put their hand inside the field and they would touch my clothing because they wanted to know what the material felt like. A jacket, I had a sheepskin coat I wore up there once. They were absolutely enthralled with that, you know, because they don't have sheep. So that was pretty fun. That was really interesting. I garnered a lot of attention on that trip.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Well, I remember one day because the emotion is outburst of emotion is the way often my communication with Thorhan is activated, switch on. Either myself or him have a strong emotion and it activates the bridge. And one day he was crying with emotion, but he was extremely intense. And I connect to him and I heard echoes of music and in his head, and he was in tears. And he says, I picked up this piece of music from broadcast from your planet. And he said, to me, it represents humanity of Earth, the heart and the emotion of humanity. And I went, what is this music then? So he said, I don't know the name. So he made me hear it in his head. And I was mesmerized by it. And after our communication stopped, because we were sharing emotion, I was crying with him. And I could feel through this music all the hopes of humanity, millenniums of ancestral love and family love and people caring for their children and people looking at the sky with hope and fear and all the emotions of human emotions, the beauty of them. And once our communication was finished, I straightly went on internet and this music in my head and trying to find it, and I finally found it. It was the Barber's Adagio for Strings.
Oh, interesting.
The Adagio for Strings from Barber. And this tune, to him, but that's him, 5 density Pleiadian Ahel, to him it represents the soul of humanity. And there is a crescendo in it. It's very interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Desaius, who was always a tough nut. The piece of music that moved him, and this is him telling me, is a piano piece, and I don't recall giving it to them, but nonetheless, you know, they hear what's going on here, the media, everything. And the piece of music of ours that he enjoyed, he said, was, and they played it for me, and I knew the piece right away. It was George Winston's Thanksgiving. And that piece of music really moved Desaius on a level. And, you know, it's interesting because every once in a while you hear a songwriter say, you know what, God, what's her name? Sarah, she wrote that song, Angel. Oh my God, her last name's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, she talks about how she sat down at the piano and in like 30 minutes, the song was done. It just came down. And all she had to do was play it. That's what she said. All I did was play it. And then I wrote it down because it was just right there. And I think it's fascinating that, because, you know, the entire universe and all of existence is a holograph of color, light, and sound.
Yes.
And I think we as humans here, because of our width of emotions, we have this ability to tap in, regardless of the level or dimension. We have this ability to tap in to, is it emotion? Is it memory? Is it an actual physical experience that's been transcribed to sound? I don't know what it is, but we have this gift of being able to just pull this stuff down. And there it is. And, you know, they're in awe. They're in awe of our ability to do this kind of stuff. So, you know, on the one hand, we have the dark side wanting to beat the crap out of us and disempower us and say, you know, you're nothing, you're losers, you're you're not worth anything, you're a pain in the ass, whatever. And yet we are capable of this profound talent and ability.
That's what they want to understand. They want to crack the code of that, of the power of the human soul, and especially these humans of Earth who are a special mixed breed of so much. That's why they abduct us. That's why they do soul scraping. They try to crack up the code and the secrets of the power of the abilities of these souls, the interdimensionality of the soul. They can't. They still haven't figured out, and they won't, because they're getting kicked out soon. So they won't get to know. But that drives them mad. They would like this power. They would do so much evil with this power, but they still haven't figured it out. It's impossible.
Right. And they don't want to do the work. What they want to do is just steal it. You know, want to just steal it. And then so they don't have to actually do the work, go through all the lifetimes, go through the trials and tribulations, all the lessons. But, you know, we came in with knowledge. You know, before this universe was created, God had to have been, okay? He had to have existed outside the space, which we call our universe. Yeah. And so did we. We had to have existed. So we have a lot of experiences beyond this universe. Yeah. So when we came in with this knowledge already, yes, which they will never get. And they will never have. No. And I'm sure it pisses them off.
Oh, big time. Big time.
You know, and of course, most of us are completely oblivious to this. You know, what are you talking about? And they're like, come on, you don't know? You don't know what you're capable of?
Yes, that's why people need to turn within and discover who they really are and stop giving out to fear and confusion. That's the message we are telling since always, and teaching is repeating, you know.
Well, you know, if you're in fear, you're in a self-imposed prison. Yes. It makes it easy. They don't actually have to put handcuffs on you because you've done it yourself. You know, yes. You're your own jailer. It's
I know.
It's astonishing.
I know. So
So
what
let's see.
Yeah. So so the first time you were on board the ship, you were beamed up. What age were you? When was it?
I was 8. I was 8. I don't remember the actual thing because I was sleeping underneath a tree.
Yeah.
We were all playing hide and go seek. And I remember the adults warning us about ticks. You know, be careful of the ticks in the grass because, you know, the grass was high. It was in August. And I didn't even think about it. And I remember just waking up on the table. But after that, I would be drawn to the window of the house, or I would go outside the yard, or I would go for a walk. There was a cornfield not far from our house, and we used to go over there as kids and try to catch corn snakes and bullfrogs. And so I would just go in there, and then I would see the light, the little beam blue light, and I would just walk into it. And like, you know, like that, you're up on board. And as I'm materializing, they're putting the belt on me. You know, there's like this hug.
The frequency belt, yeah.
Yes, exactly. The environmental energy suit. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
And,
they do the same to me. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's because they're 5D. Yeah, our little fuzzy heads would explode up there without it. So, so after that, and I really liked it. You know, I really liked the feeling. It was kind of like spinning really fast on a merry-go-round. It was just, you know, like almost going up a drain or coming down a drain. That's kind of what it felt like. And you know, and my stomach would jump up or come down, depending upon which direction. And so after that, that was fine. The first time out, it was basically show and tell. You know, I know that there was some dialogue, and I can't remember any of it because I was mesmerized by what I was seeing. And it was interesting. It's nothing like the ships we have in the movies. They're very, very sterile for the most part, at least the hallways. Many of the rooms are very sterile. What I realized later is that even though you walk into a room, there's nothing there, that does not mean there isn't anything there.
That's true.
It's just that they have these fields of energy, and when they need something, it materializes in the room. So, but when they're not using it, it's not just out. They conserve energy, they just put it back inside this field, this wall of this field, which is like this wall of energy that's stagnant. In other words, and you already know this, that they use a lot of holographic technology, which is the ability to create something and make it physically manifest so that you can use it, you can touch it, it's operational. And then when you're done, they literally just unwind it, the energy of it, and it goes back to some place. So that was always interesting. The command room where the pilots were and most of his crew, that was awesome. There were screens that were holographic, and it's really hard to describe, but it's almost as if you could jump into it and you'd be in another world. But you know, they're used to seeing it because they operate them every single day. But these holographic monitors and screens, I remember the first time I said, well, you know, exactly where am I? And he said, well, we're above what you know is Alaska. And I said, well, I'd like to see that. And he walked over and put his hand on something and did a swipe to the right. And all of a sudden, the entire front of the ship became transparent glass.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I think I said that out loud. Oh my God. You know, and they all got a kick out of it because they were talking to each other. I couldn't hear it, but I could feel the energy because I've learned their frequencies, and I could hear one pop and then the other pop and boom, 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 boom. So they had a good time watching me.
Yes.
And because they themselves are in this reality, and I think in many respects they themselves have taken it for granted because it's their everyday reality. And you know, they don't step out of it for any period of a time to come back and say, wow, you know, this is really special, I'm so grateful for this. I'm not sure that they have those moments.
Yeah.
Just like we don't. You know, we have forgotten to have gratitude about so many things, even the real simple stuff every day.
Oh yes.
So that was awesome. Another time I was up and Mornay met me at the portal, and I'm like, where are we going? He was walking really fast. He goes, come. So I'm following him, almost running, because You know, he's 7.5 feet, and I'm this little squirt. So he's taking one stride, I'm taking 5 or 6, you know, to try to keep up with him. I remember walking in, and there's Visayas watching this hologram, and it was Earth Television from Chicago. And I said to Maureen, I said, this is not a good idea. He shouldn't watch television. You know, and they were so desperately trying to figure out our contradictions and how it is that we live with all these contradictions in our lives, and yet we somehow have learned to balance those contradictions to a point where we just know that this is how life is here. It seemed, our reality seems incredibly complicated to them because of all the contradictions. They don't understand how we live with all these contradictions every single day and yet continue to want more, seek our answers, do internal work, pray, you know.
Yeah, it's so different to them.
Oh yeah, it is.
And
it is. And yet we're capable of such depth of love and compassion.
Yes.
And yet we live with all these other contradictions every single day.
That's our power. Whatever the contradictions, whatever the ordeals, we still go on. The human species is still alive and has been striving, surviving for such a long time. We are so powerful. And
we are. And especially once we learn our true history,
yes,
you know, of being slaves to many of the other different ET races, and having been almost annihilated once or twice before, and having to deal with dinosaurs and deal with earth changes and pole shifts and just solar eruptions, EMPs, all of these things that we've had, asteroid strikes, all of these things. And yet, you know, we still continue to want to have families and bear children and provide a great life for them, protect them. Yeah, I mean, you know, we've had everything thrown at us.
Yes, yes.
Everything. And, you know, we're still standing. Yes. Confused, but we're still standing.
Yes, yes. And that's where lies our power. It's interesting that you were describing Zene ship, because I've never been in a Zene ship, but I've been in a Pleiadian ship from the Galactic Federation, a scout ship. And many times, that's the ship that rescued me. Thoran was ship captain at the time. And I've been in this scout ship so many times. And he even taught me how to drive it. That was quite epic. We nearly crashed on Mars, and he has very good reflex. That's a funny story. But it's similar. It's not the same ship, but it's similar. And it was the fact that what is not needed is not in the room. I experienced the same. When you come in, this ship, this scout ship, it's the elegant saucer, flying saucer shape, these ones, metallic and very elegant. Elegant is the word that you say when you see them. It's like, you know, the toroid shape inside. You have this big central, what the power drive is, with the big, there's a cylinder with a substance, it's like a plasma in it, and this powers the whole ship. That's to make everything work. They say they harvest it from the energy from the void that they call themselves, they call it thrill. But in this ship, it's all like clean and clear. There's nothing, no furniture. But when they want something, you just turn back and, oh, this couch wasn't there, wasn't it? Or, you know, and
Right.
and when you come in the ship and the ship is not flying, it's just docked at the station, the mothership. There's no screen. It's all in the control room. And there's nothing. It's just when you take off, suddenly in front of you, the whole front of the room is transparent and you can see through. And he explained to me, it's not a glass, it's actually a holographic screen that transcribes what's outside, but it's like a cinema screen, it's not a glass. So that's very interesting. And the controls, when you sit in the armchair, it's like, there's nothing in front of you. A few lights that can light through the kind of the white material, but when he presses his hands on this material, and you have holographic screens that pop out from everywhere, boom, 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 and that's amazing. And that's the same as you described. And he showed me how to even drive the ship, because there are different ways of driving it with this holographic screen. So I was sat in the armchair, and this appeared in front of me, just above my knees. Oh, wow, like a rectangle, hologram with lots of, it was only lines and circles, and it was 3D at the same time. It was like in the screen, in this holographic screen, which was totally super flat. But if you were in front of it, it was like infinite inside. You could really fly in. You had the impression that you could fly in. But if you were looking on the other side, it was like a micron, like so thin. And putting your finger in it with your own energy field, and you manifest an intention, and you put your finger in it, and you move stuff, and it moves the ship. That was absolutely amazing. That's an incredible experience.
Well, I had the experience of flying, and I remember standing there, and I had to put my hand on this round knob of some sort, and I don't recall what was going on in the monitors because they had the transparency open. So I'm looking outside, and I remember thinking to myself, I hope we don't fall. And immediately the ship started to go like this and drop. So he put his hand on me, on my shoulder, and it stopped. And I remember saying, you know, and he just smiled. He goes, "It's okay. It happens."
Oh my God, that absolutely reminds me when we nearly crashed on Mars. Oh my gosh. I was sat in the armchair, and he said, now I'm going to teach you how to drive it by thought. And I say, well, I'm not quite psychic enough or strong enough to do that. He said, don't worry, you have an implant, and we'll do it with that. So he tuned in my implant to the frequency of the navigation mother or central of the ship. So I was in resonance with it. And I had to put my two hands at the end of the armrest on two, it was octagonal patches, like felt like glass. And that was connecting my consciousness also to the navigation. I'm not able to explain in more details. Oh God, no. I can just describe what happened. And he said, now, he said, think where you want to go, and the ship will follow your thought. I went, no way. So he said, for the moment, we are going to set it on planet Mercury. And you guys just, you look and you go ahead, and you see this little white dot there, that's Mercury, and we're going to go there. You just have to focus and go to it, and we will get there. And he had set the navigation on super slow because they can go, you know. So, and nothing was moving because, you know, it's not like in the sci-fi movie, you have the stars shooting. You know, it's, I mean, it's like you don't even know you're moving. It's really weird.
Well, it's because they fold space. That's
I know.
Why. Yeah.
And suddenly, but when you pass by something very, very close, you see the thing moving, passing. So I don't remember where we were. We were out after Jupiter orbit. I don't know where we were at that time. We saw Mars. We passed Mars. And I was like this, and I went, oh my gosh, is that Mars? We just, and I swear I saw Mars from very close. And Thorhan has such good reflex. He just switched me off and took back the controls. He went like,
right. Yeah.
And he said, okay,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna stop trying to drive this thing for a while. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. You didn't want to have to explain that to the Pleiadian Council. You did what? You gave her the keys? Are you crazy?
Oh, he's done things he wasn't allowed many times.
Yeah, well, my experience was after M had put his hand on my shoulder, I was flying. I was flying the ship. And at, I don't know how long it was, because time is not relevant when you're in that space. So I remember when we were done and he took his hand off me, I said, well, you know, where did we go? He goes, we really didn't go anywhere. You were just going in a circle, in a loop. I'm like, oh, okay. I couldn't get in any trouble.
That they don't trust us and they're
well, whatever lifetime I had flying Starship, that was a long time ago. And you know, it's a perishable skill. It really is. If you don't do it a lot, you're going to lose it. So,
yeah. Talking about this, before we came, we were already with them, and we decided to come. I remember I was in the Pleiades on the same planet as Thorhan, and I decided to come and respond to the call of duty for what was needed to be done. What do you remember before coming? Do you remember being one of the A's, or?
yes, I was shown the lifetime that brought me here. Well, parts of it. And it was roughly probably closer to 63,000 years now in Earth's rotational time system. I was very tall, approximately 10 feet. I was here with 7 others, and we were here on not only an expedition to chart and map different biological and DNA species on the planet. Because in the outskirts of our galaxy, there's a lot of life, and it's all experimental life. In other words, they're mixing and merging different types of DNA and creating biologicals to see what type of environments they can withstand. And then what they do is, once they pass those tests, they begin to seed them in different other places. But there are specific systems where they do this. And I was on one of those missions, and we got caught in the middle of a battle between two other groups that were hostile to each other. And I was told that we made an effort to mediate this hostility because we were stuck in the middle of it anyway. And so, you know, it seemed like a good idea at the time to begin the mediation process to see if we could get ourselves out of the way. Well, no one was going for that, and they basically blew us away. So, and our ship was taken, and I've been here ever since, trying to get home. taken the long way home, actually. So
yeah, it's
that I remember. I remember it now because they showed it to me. And that was one of the images that was on the wall that came out when I was 8. And they had this little cap that they put on my head. And what I was seeing were memories, cellular memories that are already contained, not only in my DNA, but my auric field. So what I was seeing was actually my own memories, which I thought was fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I had this emotional response, because the technology triggered my own memory. And now I'm in this human body, so I have this wide range of emotions. So whatever emotions I had then doesn't compare to how I would feel now because of being in this particular body, this physicality, and having this huge range of emotion. So it kind of magnifies everything by 10 or maybe higher, maybe in some cases by 100. You know, the idea though is if you can control the emotion and focus it, the emotion with intent, that's really what they're afraid of, is us getting the ability to control our emotions and marry it with intent, focused intent. Oh my God. There is nothing we would not be capable of.
Yes, we can
Which
modify
is why they constantly have us in fear, because, you know, we're not empowered. We're just reacting to the stimuli of the outside world, which is where they manipulate us. So it's really extraordinary to be. It's extraordinary to be in this position and then have mentors who totally get that. And they're like, hey, it's going to be okay. You just don't understand what's going on. You don't understand the situation you're in, which is why you're acting this way. And you're reacting to all this nonsense.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I, for one, am very, very grateful that we have these type of mentors. You know, it's just,
It's
you
not
know,
always easy.
energy flows where focus goes. And if you're going to focus on something really negative, that's where the energy is going to take you. But if you understand that that's all a sham, that that's all a game of manipulation, once you understand that and you're able to withdraw your energy from that and put it into something positive, and when you want to take that energy and that intention and rise to something higher, to take yourself to something higher, even though you may not know what it is, just the intent of wanting something better, a higher frequency, the universe will react to that desire. And it will begin to pull you up. It'll start to put the stones in front of you. And then what we have to do is just take one step in front of the next until we get to this place. And then we look back and we're like, whoa, you know, I've made all this progress. And you don't realize it because you're in the middle of it until you stop at some point at a plateau and you look back, and the old life that you had that you didn't want is so far in the distance you can't even see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly how driving a ship is like driving your life. And I'd say focusing on something and you enter in quantum resonance with it in the future or wherever it is in the universe, in the time, anywhere, you suddenly make contact with this and you are going to be like a magnet attracted to this thing. You just have to manifest it and you make contact with it, and you just have to walk to let yourself go there.
You have to walk to it.
Walk to it.
Yeah. And work towards it. And then one day it's there and the sun is still shining and You're like, whoa. And then everything falls into place. All the perspectives fall into place, and you realize when you look back, all the things that you had to go through, all the people that you met, all of the relationships that were good or bad, they all then suddenly make sense.
Yes.
And then you're at this place of like gratitude,
Yes.
you know, and it's at that point you let go of all the hurt and the pain and the frustration, because you now realize these were the things, these events, these people helped get me to this place. They drove me towards what it was I really wanted.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's an extraordinary journey.
Yes, and we are very grateful to be able to not only to live this, but to be able to share it. And there has,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting now that they're doing disclosure. You know, I keep telling people, what about first contact? We've already had first contact. Our ancestors had this long ago. We didn't build the pyramids. Sorry. You know, we didn't build the pyramids on Mars. You know, what do you think? The Egyptians flew them there on ships to Mars to practice building pyramids and then come back? It's just, you know, nonsense. So what it is that we're remembering. We're being shown parts of our past, of humanity's past, to give us perspective so that when we're confronted with the future, we have a way to engage with it.
Yes.
And that's important, because if you have absolutely no clue what that is in front of you,
yeah,
you know, are you going to move towards it? No,
yes.
You need perspective.
Yes. Yes.
And so they have to tell us about our past now. It's been hidden all these years. And, you know, and the future is literally right in front of us.
Yes.
The whole change of everything, the awakening, the conscious jumps, the changes in physical DNA, it's all literally right in front of us. And, you know, they're hundreds of years behind in letting us know what's been going on. So we're going to get the crash course big time.
Yes.
So that
yes.
we have perspective, you know, so we have some kind of perspective. We don't lose our minds trying to figure out what, you know, how can this be? You know, that's going to involve civilization, our physicality, religions, philosophical teachings, science, all of it, you know. You know, they're going to have to explain how the Egyptians had spark plugs and light bulbs.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
No.
Yeah. We've been maintained in this matrix of ignorance since a long time, and now it's just falling apart. And the pieces of the history of Earth is being given back to the real history, but is being given back to the people of Earth, and that is going to be, I know, weirder and weirder for some people, but that's how it is. And I believe, well, what I have I've been told, that we've jumped on the good timeline, the timeline where we are going to get out of this illusion and this mess. And things are, the war is not over. Oh my gosh, we still need to fight and keep our vibration high as much as I can. Everybody who says, oh, light has won and stuff, okay, we are on the good way, we're fine, we'll be fine, but we must not stop. That is, if we don't stop fighting, that's gonna be okay, that's gonna be great. At the only condition, we keep on going as we do, keep on fighting, resisting to any kind of control, mind control, and discovering who we are and rising our vibration. We need to keep on fighting, telling the truth, disclosing And do you have the same feeling?
I do. I do. We're clearly walking towards our future, but like you said, the jackals are literally right behind us,
Yes.
waiting for us to fall off so that they can, you know, consume another soul or consume another culture, destroy another country. You know, they're literally on our heels because their entire existence had to do with controlling and manipulating us. And now that we're no longer in that position, or they're in that position, they are now chasing after us as we are moving towards our future. And most people aren't even aware of what that exactly is. They know on a spiritual level, on a intuitive level, that everything is changing. They know this, even though they may not say it out loud. They are aware that everything's changing, and it's happening very, very quickly. And they also realize that a lot of darkness is suddenly being revealed that has been hidden for hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And, you know, most people have some common sense. They understand that when suddenly all this darkness shows up, that there's something going on. And the process of how this is all going to unfold, or is in fact unfolding, I think are lessons learned from the first time this didn't work. I also think this is lessons learned with the time traveling, both of our benevolent white hats on this planet using looking glass and other technology, and also benevolent extraterrestrials or star families coming in and saying, look, you're about to make these moves. How about looking at this perspective? What about if you were to change this, this, and this, you would have maybe a different outcome, and you could cut 15 years off your struggle.
Yes.
So there's a lot of that going on. They can't say you have to do this. All they can do is come back and say, look, we can suggest this. And then, of course, our white hats will process that information, and then they will try to figure out if it's valid or not. And at the same time, what this is doing is it's building trust, because, you know, in order to get to the next level where we move into fourth and to fifth, there's a lot of things we have to do and change. And the first is how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves. And we have to dismantle our nuclear weapons.
Yes.
We have got to do something with all of that technology that is not only crumbling, but is in fact poisoning the planet. So, and you know, they have this ability, the star families, they have this ability already to do it. But you know, back in the 50s, the Pleiadians warned Eisenhower about, you know, dealing with the Orion group.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, look, we will help you, but you've got to disable your nukes because they're a real problem for you. And of course, we didn't have the foresight then. And the Orion group, they were like, hey, you can keep those. We don't give a shit. You know, and they didn't, because what they were doing is farming us.
Yeah.
You know, but of course, we didn't know that either. So, you know, the men and women that made those decisions in the 50s were literally between Orion and their thinking only compounded the problem.
Yes.
Because at that time, their thinking was that, you know, there's enemies everywhere.
Yes.
And
yes.
that simply wasn't true, but that was their mindset.
Yes.
It's been fascinating, and you know, we're living in a movie, and it's a movie that we're all starring in and writing at the same time. We're all writing our story as we're evolving into the future.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know, I love a happy ending. I sure do. That's why I watch Hallmark movies.
There
As
will
corny
be,
as that is, there's always a happy ending, you know?
we are heading towards a happy ending because we're making it. And we've jumped on a timeline that leads to this happy ending, but we must keep on fighting for it. It's not because we're on the path that we must stop running. As you just say very rightfully, you have the wolves at your back, the hyenas at your back, and
Jackals. The jackals, yeah.
shackles at our back, and keep on running. Don't stop. You know, it's not because you see the end of the road or tunnel, as we say, that you go, oh great, I'm gonna stop running. No, run for it, until you've passed the door. Keep on running. And that there's so many manipulation in the now all the spiritual movements and stuff, like light as one, great, just sit back. No, 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 keep on running, and nearly there, but don't stop. And our families are there, and
I think the trick now is to help people imagine a different future. You know, we hear a lot about med beds, and we hear about, we have now flying cars coming into reality. We hear about the Mars bases, the moon bases, about our secret space program, and the fact that, you know, they've been able to travel outside of our solar system, and they themselves are exploring, and now they're all having to come back, and they're going to have to reintegrate with Earth. So what's happening here is that the attempt of breakaway civilizations is they're now having to come back and rebuild our civilization, because you can't just ditch your race or have any respect for groups that did that. And I know for a fact that the secret space program has had conversations in regards to that fact, which is why they've been forced back into our solar system. And that's because they have to take responsibility. You are not going to do what you did here anywhere else. You are going to solve the problems, and you're going to move together, because you are a race. You are, in fact, a family, whether you care to admit it or acknowledge it or not. That's what it is. And we are not going to allow you to just run amok and be idiots out here in some other place, because that's why we're here, is to take care of another group that is tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years old, that has been doing this throughout the galaxy and other galaxies. So we're not going to shut them down only to let you go run around and do the same thing.
yeah.
So they're being the big brothers now, and they're coming back and saying, yo guys, it's time to grow up, and these are the steps you have to take, and this is how you have to start looking at things if you choose to want to do this. And you know, there's a learning curve for all of us. You know, many of the people in these space programs, they have no past here. Some of them have been born off-world, so they've never actually had any real integration with the Earth herself. Not all, but some. So, you know, this is going to be an extraordinary experience for all of us, and there's not one of us that isn't going to be touched by this.
Yes.
By this process. And you know, but now we have to begin visualizing a better future, a different future. And you know, that's kind of the trick here. I think in some ways the Star Trek movies and things of like that have tried to bring that premise to people's consciousness, but they don't go far enough. Now that the reality of all of it is confronting us, now we have to literally physically begin to manifest it for ourselves and for each other. Because as I've said, and I believe you have said as well, we are now forefathers and foremothers of our race.
Yes.
So what we do now with our time and our focus and our energy sets a precedent for future generations. So we are responsible for that. We have to own that.
Every one of us present now are responsible.
Every single one of us, you know, from the sanitation engineer to the cook, to the car salesman, to the doctor, to the lawyer. It doesn't matter. All of us have to start thinking about this now.
Yes.
And
we all have a role to play in it. We all have a role to play in this.
We all do. That's why we're all here now.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And once we know it, we start to get back to our own power and think, hey, wait a minute. So what could I do? What am I good at? What are my tools? What are my gifts, my qualities? What did I incarnate with? What are my tools? Okay, so I'm going to use them. And who I am. And this starts like this. And once you discover who you are and why you are here, there's nothing the dark ones can do to hold you back.
It's game over.
Game over.
Game over. Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah. You're out of the lobster pot, the crab pot. Yes. You are free to move about the cabin, and no one can tell you any different. Yes. Just do no harm to others. Just do no harm to others.
Yes. That is why our families, galactic families, I mean, the Galactic Federation, the Andromedan Council, the Council of Five, and all the others, they are here. They always say they are not here to save us. They are here to assist us saving ourselves. Because if they do the job for us, we will never grow, and that will all be for nothing. They show us the way. They do their best to that we wake up to who we truly are. What is the great awakening? It's not especially being aware that what's going on. The great awakening, it's inside, awakening to who you truly are. And once you've done that, oh my gosh, that's game over for them. We're so powerful. We're so powerful. Yeah.
Well, there's doing and then there's teaching. And when you do it, you not only learn it, but then you can teach it because you've actually done the experience.
Yes.
And having the experience alters your DNA. It changes who you are because you now have the knowledge and the wisdom and insight that goes with going through that experience. And you can't learn that in books. You know, yes. You just cannot learn that in books. You can only learn it by living.
Yes.
And experiencing it.
And I want to.
And then you're empowered. And then you're empowered because now you know. Now you know. It's like, you know, reading a book on how to swim as opposed to actually taking swimming lessons. If you've read 2 books on how to swim and you jump in the lake, you're going to drown. You're going to drown because you don't know. But if you learned to be in the water and you've learned to use your body in the water to buoy yourselves, to use your limbs to move you across the water, through the water, then you're going to survive. And there is a huge difference. There's living reality, and then there's playing a game of virtual reality.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Yes. Yes.
They're just not the same. So, and I brought that up because a lot of kids are into the virtual reality thing. They're like, oh, in 10 years, all video games are going to be virtual reality. Well, what about the reality you're living here without the helmet on? What's
Yeah.
wrong with this? You know?
I know. I know
Yeah.
that our children are the ones who are targeted now, because our generation, we've awakened, it's fine, we're the fighters, we're the openers of the ways, but the kids, they are the ones, they are the humans of this new world, this new future, and they try to just lock them down, and they do whatever they can to lock them into a virtual matrix. So okay, we have to focus on our awakening, but more important is focusing on the kids. Just watch them. What are they up to? What are they watching? What are they doing? That's super important.
I believe that that's happening now. I think
yeah.
once all of the information regarding child trafficking, human trafficking, and everything else that goes with it that's so dark, that's going to cause a massive switch in everyone's consciousness, including the young people. And that literally is in front of us.
Yes, yes.
I think that is absolutely true. But, you know, if you're going to tell someone to clean their house, you better make sure your house is cleaned first. If you're going to tell somebody how to act and, you know, what is appropriate and what is not, then we ourselves have to know that first. We have to be coming from a place of knowing, or it's just not going to be believable.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, kids, whatever it can be said about them, you know, they can smell bullshit a mile away. They really can, for the most part, because they call each other on it all the time.
Yes.
But we have to be coming from a place of, okay, we've done this work. We know it's real. We know it works. And we know how to apply it. Are you interested in learning?
Yes.
And there will be a majority of younger people that will say yes. They will want to know. It may start out just as a curiosity, but once they begin the process and it begins to empower them and it begins to free them on levels they can't even imagine now, then that's it. It's over, because you'd rather have, you know, children you have to hold back than children you have to push.
Yes.
So the messaging here has to be one that engages their imagination so that they are drawn to the process and to the future and begin to create it with us. Because after all, they're going to inherit it. So they have to be fully engaged. So I'm not exactly sure what that looks like just yet, but I know that there's a lot of conversations both on Earth and off Earth about how to engage the younger generations on this planet with exactly that messaging, so that they can engage voluntarily. And the initial reason doesn't matter, but once they're engaged, the process will begin to empower them, and then it's off to the races.
Yes.
Because, you know, Elena, once their head's out of the sand, they can't put it back. They can't put it back.
That's what I said.
So,
what I said.
and that's all we got to do is get their heads out of the sand.
Yes, yes. What Thoran told me is that the kids now, the new generation, they way more higher up in frequencies than us, more and more and more. And they are looking, they're craving for this connection faster and earlier. And if we don't catch that at the start, and if we are not vigilant, they are going to look for that online, on YouTube, TikTok, whatever thing, to try to find spiritual guidance. And that's where the predators, the dark ones, are looking for these kids to drag them into another matrix and lock them, their psyche, and make of them passive little zombies. We need to really be vigilant and go forward, not wait. Start to talk about our kids about all these things. Remember, when we were kids, we were open to listen to these stories, but the kids are. So let us tell them what is really going on, and they'll understand, and let them offer to be their guides, guide them.
Yeah.
You want to know about crystals? You want to know about astral travel? I'll teach you. I'll show you. I know, I'm doing it. Oh, really? And we need
Exactly.
to, yeah. Yes.
There are a lot of young people who think old people are idiots, and I keep reminding them, you don't get old on this planet being an idiot. You know, you don't.
Yes.
You have to learn to navigate this planet and everything that's on it in order to live a full life.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then your journey could be short.
Are you, Are you visiting Morene and Viserys?
It's almost 6 months since I've heard from him.
Okay, they must be very busy.
I hope so. You know, I'd hate to think of him sitting on a beach drinking Mai Tais. We're going through all this crap.
I don't think anyone.
I kid. I wouldn't mind being there myself, frankly. But no, I'm sure they are. I know there's a lot going on out there.
Yeah, I don't think anyone upstairs is sat on a beach.
No, I was just being a smart ass.
Yeah, it's difficult, and they surely look after you, and they're never very far.
No, I remember one time there was a very long period of time. I was living in Malibu at the time. There was a long stretch of time where I didn't hear from them, and then suddenly, you know, they come back, and I remember coming on board, and the first thing I said to him, I said, "What, did you stop for coffee?" You know, and he's like, "What?" He didn't understand the reference, so I couldn't use any earth humor with him. So,
oh my God, yes.
you know,
Earth humor, they so don't get it. It's so funny.
No, they sure don't.
What's your funniest moment with them? The moment that made you laugh.
Oh, my funniest moment. I would have to say, you know, they're all good moments.
Yeah.
And they're all teachable moments. But I think some of my fondest memories are watching the kids interact with each other, and then interacting with me, and listening to our music.
Yes.
And appreciating us and our culture. You know, in the very beginning, it was really quite daunting. Because you can feel very, very inferior.
Yeah, I know.
You can feel small compared to who they are and what they are just by their presence.
Yes.
You know that they're together. They all know who they are. They're all extremely intentional with everything they do. Every motion they make, every thought they have, every word that they have with you, whether it's telepathic or not, everything has been well thought out and very intentional. And you can feel very first grade. One of the most interesting parts of the journey for me is how they have been able to reflect back, not our weaknesses, but our strengths. What it is that we do that they really admire, such as creating music, our drive to survive, taking care of family, children, always being eager to laugh and to share, and how many people on this planet wake up every morning realizing that today is a miracle. We don't talk about it, it's not shared, but many of us have that, thank God it's another day. And those are the things that they look at and say, gosh, after everything that you're dealing with now and everything that your civilization has gone through, and here you are on the precipice of not only a spiritual awakening, but the extension of your DNA strands. You did this. No one else did this. You guys did this. Whether you're aware of it or not, your drive, your desire called this forth. We're here just to assist in
Yes.
that process.
Yes, I hear the same. I hear the
and at the
same.
same time, to remove the obstacles which aren't your fault and they were never supposed to be here in the first place.
Yes, I hear exactly the same thing, that they are here to assist us and to take away, to remove what we are not able to deal with because it comes from another world.
Exactly.
They empower us to take back our planet, but as much as we can, we are able to. And anything that is extraterrestrial, invasive, regressive, they are dealing with, because we don't have the weapons, we don't have the technology to fight them. So that's their.
We don't think holographically either. So
no,
we're constantly outmaneuvered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're taking care of that. But Thorhan always says to me, we're taking care of anything that technological and war and stuff against extraterrestrials, he says. But you need to do your part of the job, he says, otherwise it won't work, he says. You have one job. He uses the finger every time. He says, tell them they have one job: raise their frequency. And that's his finger. It's commander. It's like, I say, oh, okay. Tell them. Yes, commander.
Roger that, sir.
And sometimes it's so like, oh, yes. What is nice to tell everyone is that they have emotions and feeling like us, and sometimes they can get annoyed, and they don't understand something, and they could, or sometimes they see a group of humans on Earth, they are acting so stupidly and they are being so mind controlled, and they really run for it. And sometimes they are like, oh, stupid human, wake up. I can feel that. I can feel that they're like this sometimes. Well, I can only talk about the Pleiadians, the Ahil Pleiadians I'm in contact with, but I suppose it's a bit the same with the A's. Wouldn't it be the same?
Well, they've invested a lot of themselves here as well.
Yeah.
And I think they don't understand why we don't get it yet. But then again, I have toyed with Mornay about this. I'm like, well, let's trade places. Let's trade places.
Yeah.
All right. I will take over your body. You come down here and take over mine. And he was just like, no.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
Yeah.
And I said, why? Because you're afraid? He goes, well, it wouldn't be allowed. I said, that's probably a good thing, isn't it? He goes, yeah, it is a good thing. He would not want to be here dealing with this because he doesn't have any actual physical experience in third density. But aside from that, they do get frustrated. I've seen it. I've actually seen him shake his head at me, just like my father would. And I'm, sometimes I'm waiting to see his head roll off his shoulders because he's shaking it so much. And, you know, and I just say, look, we're doing the very best we can.
Yes. Yes.
We really are.
Yes.
But, you know, they understand. They understand that
Of course.
we have been in the dark for so long. And we still don't have a grasp on what reality actually is. We really don't know. We don't realize that other star systems and civilizations that are at the same level as us are living completely different lives now. They're off-world, they're exploring. They don't live in a monetary system. They have healthy bodies. Their life expectancy is between 200 to 500 years now in a single body. We don't have any knowledge of that.
Yes.
Because we're the last. We're the last to be freed
Yes.
from this group. And which is why they're fighting such tooth and nail.
Oh my God.
Because it's over for them. And it literally is over for them.
Yes. Yes. It is
and
over.
you know, some of these beings don't have soul. So when that light goes out, it's out forever. And they know it. And they're more terrified than anything.
Yes. That's what I'm told as
We
well.
have more fear than we.
Yeah. They're the ones who
they have
are
more fear than we.
afraid. Yeah.
Which is why they get so angry. It's because they have more fear than we do. The angrier you get is the more fear you have. Because that's how fear manifests itself as anger.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Very interesting.
And something that's going to make you smile, with a few echoes I have by Thorhan of what's happening on Mars. Mars, who's been now liberated and read, and there's so much going on Mars. They've done on Mars what the Galactic Federation, I can only speak for them because that's the information I get from them. What the way they deal with Mars, with the Mars local beings, which are old species of reptilians and insectoids, they have empowered them for years, given them weapons, and just wind them up to resist to the Sicars and well, you know, we must not name them, but what Thorhan said to me is that the regressive reptilians, not to name them, the big C, they who hold the main bases on Mars, they are extremely angry. He says they are furious. And he said, you know against who they are furious? I said, well, I suppose against the Galactic Federation. He said, against the Andromeda Council. I went, no way. He said, yes, they are angry against them because it's because of them that they are losing, because the Andromeda Council has foreseen what was going to happen and traced it back in time, backwards, and asked us to help and intervene because we are a military force. Yeah. And
they put all this in motion.
yes.
Yeah. Yes.
That means they are so in fear because they know they are losing. And so I thought,
lose.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose.
So
they're gonna get their asses kicked. That's what it means.
I know.
Even a spanking. I mean, a whooping, a full-blown whooping.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
behind the shed, kind of a whooping.
And I'm and I'm so glad that our informations match on this topic, because I was told by Thorhan, oh yes, we are here because so much more is at stake. And he said, it's the Andromedan Council who asked us to come and assist here. And that's what he told me. And otherwise, he said, we wouldn't be here if they hadn't foreseen that a seed of evil would be born in your solar system that would bother, in many centuries later, the whole galaxy. And it's exactly what Morene told you. And that's
30 years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago.
Yes, yes. And I really want, to, I don't know, I feel emotion to say that, but everything you said a few decades ago, it's happening now. And everything was true. And it's, of course, it's true because, I mean, it's given by real beings. I mean, everything is real, but it is happening now. And Thorhan told me that the timelines, we changed them. So we changed them, well, and they try, the dark ones, they try to modify them. The fight is on so many levels, and it is also on the time level. So what was foreseen, maybe it was foreseen at a certain particular time, but as this fight, there are things that are postponed few decades later, or sometimes. So everything you said it in advance, and it's happening now. And I want to say, well, thank you for having started to warn everyone. And many people have listened to you and have trusted you and still trust you, and now everyone can really see that this is really happening. And there are so many more contactees now like me who are just told the same things and coming out and speaking. And I would encourage anyone who knows things to just come out as well. And really, you were the precursor in this disclosure movement and in this revelation of this truth. And
well, in the early days, in truth, there were a lot of other people, some of who have crossed over and passed years back. All of us, we've all done the very best we could. It's hard being a trailblazer because you don't exactly know where you're going. You don't know exactly how the message is going to be received. But what happens is that you're just driven to continue to do it.
yes.
And that takes its toll. But I'll tell you, it's been an honor to be of service to humanity. The more I meet other races, the more I realize how special we are down here. We really are extraordinary. And I don't know that there's enough people ready to even hear that message yet. But we truly are extraordinary. And you have third density benevolence, fourth density benevolence, fifth density benevolence, and there is mentoring from sixth density and maybe even to seventh. I don't know, but I know for sixth, where the mentoring is occurring that's involved in this program, this thing that's playing out here.
Yes.
And they're doing it because they see the value in us.
The potential.
And there has to be a way to get people here to see the value in themselves. That just has to happen. And I don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, yes, people are waking up. But the more voluntary that process is, the more actual leaders we're going to have.
Yes.
And the world's going to need leadership, real good leadership. We all need to become leaders in our own way.
Yes.
So this never happens again, anywhere,
Yes.
And I know that we will become champions for the underdogs. I know we will, once we're out there, because we can totally relate being the underdog, because we've been the underdog since the get-go.
Yes. Thorhan said to me once that one day we will teach them.
Yeah. Yeah, Emmett Visaya said the same thing to me, that there would come a time where we would actually be their teachers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's in the early notes,
Wow.
the very early notes. Wow. It's
Wow.
nice to hear that again.
Wow. Wow. And I'm sure we would compare our notes. We would find so many similarities.
Yeah, I'm glad we did this way, where nobody
Yes.
knows.
Yes.
It's just us.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so many things we have lived, and so many, I mean, I honor your courage, your resilience, and but how you, the way you said it, we have no choice. We just keep on going and doing it because that's what we do. That's what we do, and we're here for that.
When you're compelled to do something, you have to do it.
Yes.
And, you know, whether you're a soldier, a doctor, a nurse, a midwife, an educator, a paramedic, a first responder, a police officer, you know, when you're compelled to do something and you act on it, you are creating a frequency of vibration. Of hope for people.
Yes, hope.
And an example of someone, of an individual being empowered. You know, here in the United States, we have this horrible psychology about law enforcement people. And they so don't deserve this. They're solid. They are as solid as you can be. Yeah, there's a few idiots, but there's always a few idiots. That doesn't mean you throw everything away because of a few idiots. Otherwise, we'd never have a government, right? And if we were to apply that, that's the place it would apply, is with government, you know, because I see nothing but idiots there. But you know, you lead by example, and you lead because of your convictions. And you know, I'm blessed to be able to look at humanity in a way because I have something to compare it to. And yeah, we have issues. Yeah, we have a lot of maturing to do. But at the same time, we have extraordinary tools. We have extraordinary courage. We have an extraordinary amount of inner strength that strength, that energy is being wasted, being angry and blaming everyone else for everything that had absolutely nothing to do with anything. It's just, you know, and it's all being triggered and manipulated so that another species can feed off of us. And you have that same experience now. And yeah, there are other contactees that I have had contact with that I'm hoping will come forward when they're ready. And, you know, now is probably a good time, yes, for many of them, because it's not the same environment it was back in the 90s or even earlier in the 50s when you had, you know, people starting to talk about this and, you know, the government's, oh, it's swamp gas, it's swamp gas. Yeah, swamp gas does 90-degree turns at 10,000 miles an hour. Come on. Yes. It's different. And we're going to be okay. We're definitely going to get there. Yes. You know, it's, I just wish it was sooner than later, like yesterday. Like yesterday.
It's up to us to
because then I can
speed
go to
it
the
up.
beach and have a Mai Tai, you know.
I know. When I said I asked to Torhan once, when do you see this happening, that we've done it and we are there and that's it? He said, at the rate it is going, I would the pronostics are about in a century. I went, no way, no. And he said, hey, timelines, you change and you have total power on your timeline. And you can, if you make an extra effort, you can speed it up, and it can happen in just 20 years if you want. It's up to you. Yeah, he said to me.
Okay.
So we must never sit and wait. All the deities are going to come and it's going to be great. But they are here since no, we need to stop, sit and wait. That's manipulation. Just raise your frequency. You know, Thoran told me once, he said, a key has been given to you, many keys, but one has been given to you a very long time ago. He said to me, I said, what key? He said, the key for your liberation, the key that sorts out everything, and it's 2 words. Gnoti seoton. It's the ancient Greek that says, know thyself. And it's written on the frontispiece of a temple in Greece, in Delphi.
Yes.
Know thyself. That is the key to our liberation, to our victory, to the peace in the galaxy. Know thyself. Once we know who we are, that's it. That's what he told me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna end this with, I just want to say that you did an interview with Michael Sala that I understand was just extraordinary. And then there's another speaker who in my opinion is very sketchy, who contradicted a lot of things that you said about Mars. And I just want you to know that I 100% support you and what you were told about what's going on Mars. You know, there are a lot of shills. There are a lot of people who were part of the secret space program who are still on the dark side because they're being controlled, manipulated, and blackmailed. And they have no way out of their predicament. But that doesn't mean we can't call them out.
Yes.
So I'm not going to mention any names, but I'm sure you already know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I support you 100%.
Thank you.
Okay.
That is very informative.
Kiss our ass.
Well, thank you. I just, wow, I just appreciate. And oh yes, there's a lot of, you know, when you start to say some truth, you start to draw. The more you shine, the more you draw shadows, you know. And I receive a lot of.
It goes with the territory.
Yes, I receive.
Yeah.
Bad
it's still
messages.
The Wild West here. It's still the Wild West here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So you got the same insight about situation on Mars and everything, and
well, it had to happen.
Yes,
it had to happen. You can't clean up here and let them go there. No.
Yes, it's in 3 points. We were told, you and I, the same thing: Earth, its moon, and Mars, the seed of a dark alliance that would bother the rest of the galaxy. When Thoran says to me, there is so much more at stake than you can imagine, that was it. And the key is within us.
Well, my dear, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your space with me.
Thank you, Alex. And
I hope folks get something out of this. So
we're walking together towards this beautiful future. We're making it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.